Hello everyone, this is Mark R. Leonard with aetuts.com, and this is my first of hopefully many video tutorials. So yeah, if you guys after watching it could just leave some comments at the bottom of what you liked and what you didn't like, that would be excellent. Alright, sweet, so let's get started here. This is what we're going to be creating. It's kind of a surreal shot, a dolly through a room with sky replacement and some light rays. So yeah, let's jump into it. Okay, so this is our footage right here. We're just going to drag this into a new composition. This is actually some footage that was pulled from, I was working on a music video for the maxi single of the feature, A Lonely Place for Dying. Check that out online, new film that just came out, and it's great. So yeah, there's our footage, and what we're going to start off doing is by duplicating it. And the first job kind of thing that we have to get done here is to get rid of the blown out windows. So duplicate that. On the top layer, we're going to throw on Colorama. And basically, if you guys don't know what Colorama does, is it kind of turns colors into other colors. So even though this looks really funky, it's actually a really interesting indication of what we can do with this effect. So if you look at this, it's basically saying that, you know, each separate color is a different shade of whatever our input phase is. So in this case, it's intensity. So each color represents a different level of intensity, and you can, you know, shift all of the channels here. So in some cases, if you're trying to make a LumaMatte, or your red channel might create a little better LumaMatte than your green channel, and so on. So just fool with that. But for what we're doing here, we're going to go into output cycle, and we're going to go to ramp gray, which is going to make it into a grayscale image. And so basically, to make a LumaMatte out of this, we're going to have to crush the blacks and just make sure the whites stay white. So yeah, in that case, to add more points along this color wheel, you just kind of double click the edge and it pops up. So let's create another black point here, and you'll see that crushes the blacks. And let's make another white point. And from here, we're going to be able to kind of fool around with it to see what looks the best. So, you know, just messing with it, you'll see kind of what effects it has, and you're going to want it to be as clean as possible. So you really are going to want all of the things that should be black to be black, as opposed to, you know, gray or something. And this is something obviously that you may have to go back and adjust later, but for now, I think that'll be alright. Cool. So now that we have our LumaMatte, we're going to take this bottom footage and track matte off of the top LumaMatte. So to do that, we're going to go to track matte, and we're going to do Luma inverted. And just in case you guys don't know about a LumaMatte, basically what it is it's taking, let's go back to it, it's basically taking this information, and the bottom layer is going to read off of the top, and it's going to say, whatever is white, I either do or do not want to see, and whatever is black, I do or do not want to see. Conventionally, white you want to see and black you don't, but in this case we just swapped it, so we're just going to go to LumaMatte inverted. That's why we chose that option. Cool. So, okay, there is our shot without the windows, which is cool. So we're just going to, since this is all done, we're just going to throw this in a whole new composition, so we don't have to deal with this footage down here. So we're just going to take that composition, put it in a new one, and we're going to name this one Windows blank. Whoops. Cool. Okay, so it looks all dandy, right? Well, if we take out the transparency grid, yeah, we're going to see that kind of white shining through, which isn't necessarily going to cut it, because when we put a background in there, our bars are going to look all haloed and kind of nasty. So, the best way I found to fix this, there's many different ways, obviously, but the first thing we're going to do is to add an adjustment layer. Now, our favorite part, we're just going to do a little bit of roto work. So, since, I mean, this is a pretty easy shot to do some roto work on. It's already been stabilized. I stabilized it in Shake, so it should be a pretty easy job. So let me just pause the recording real quick, and basically what we're going to do here is we're going to trace around all of the windows and just keyframe it from one side to the other. So, you know, set your keyframe, go here, move it, and you might have to, you know, change some things in the middle here, but it should pretty much stay on par. So I'll pause it and I will be back now. Alright everyone, so I've gone ahead and keyframed out these masks that just kind of cover up the bars here, and yeah, so they animate. Just take note, I dodged the pillar here, yeah, and also just obviously this chromatic stuff looks nasty, but we'll deal with that in a second here. So, okay, now that we have the bars isolated, this is the way I found the best way to get rid of this haloing thing. Obviously, there's a million different processes you could use to do it, but this is the way I did it. First, I applied the tint effect, which just kind of levels it out, and I bumped the light. I basically turned it into a more brownish type thing, so something in there. And then the black, I just made that a little browner too, so in there. Okay. And next, what I did, this is kind of the key. I excuse me. I applied the bevel alpha effect, and basically it bevels the alpha, so it's going to put a bevel on. Yeah, see that, the bevel on the bars, and that's part of the reason why we isolated it, just to give it, just so it knows exactly what it's looking at. And this spin wheel here is basically the direction of the light it's coming in to create the bevel. So you can kind of move that wherever you want it, but the light here is the key. So we're going to change the light to like a brownish type thing, brownish, yellowish, orange-ish. And that's going to match our background, and also it's going to try to match up our bars a little bit. So we're looking at something like that. Also, just a note, the bevel alpha effect, what used in this context, it's also nice because it really does add a bit of 3D to these bars. Because, I mean, here, let's just take a snapshot real quick. If we take that effect off and then look at it, it just looks flat. And I mean, see, that's the difference. And I mean, it's pretty subconscious, but still, I mean, it definitely helps it out a little bit. It gives it a little more depth, a little more something for our eye to hold on to, which is always nice. So let's turn that back on. Okay, cool. So now let's start to put this thing together. Oh wait, no, we have to deal with this first. So yeah, we've got this chromatic thing that's happening on the side here, and we definitely have to take care of that before we move on, because that's going to pop out when we've got, you know, purples and whites that are just looking nasty. So yeah, alright, the first thing we're going to do once again is we're going to mask that out on a new adjustment layer. So let me pause this and I will be right back. Okay, so I have animated this mask. Let me just rename this chromatic. And yeah, if you check it out, I've just made it so it kind of shifts with it. And when it goes over the bar, I just put it outside so we didn't even see it. And it just kind of moves through. The keyframing is really easy, so, you know, it didn't take me much time. So now we've isolated, once again, it's kind of like the last adjustment layer, we've isolated what we're working on. So the first thing I'm going to do to this is I'm just going to apply a simple choker, and basically what a simple choker does, it pulls in the matte, so, you know, basically you can pull in however many pixels you want on every side that's, you know, that has transparency behind it. And some of you might be asking, well, why didn't we do this on the bars out here? And that's just basically the reason I didn't do it is because the bars were so thin that when you start pulling it in, they were just became almost non-existent. But these are a little thicker, so you can kind of get away with it. So let's just you can just keep messing with this, bumping it up until it looks about right. And basically, we're just trying to get the edge off of it a little bit. We're not quite worrying about the purples yet, but see some of this green junk and just where it's rough, we're just going to try to get rid of that. So maybe around 2.5 or so. See how that looks. There we go. So let's clean that up a little bit. Now to actually, to get rid of the purple. So what we're going to do is hue and saturation. This part's really simple. So in your channel control, we're just going to select the magentas, and we're just going to open this gate up a little bit so it encompasses a little more color. So just open that up, and that's what's great about this, is how you can individually select each color to work on, and it's still adjustable in the sense that, you know, if you want a little bit more, in this case red, or a little more yellow, you can extend that, which is great. So now we should have a pretty good range of that purplish color selected here, and we're just gonna take down the saturation a bit and take down the lightness, just darken it up a bit. There. So that has basically eliminated. I mean, you see a little bit of spill here, but that's not noticeable at all. And I mean, maybe opening this gate up a little bit might help, possibly bring the saturation down even more. You know, however fine you want to get it, but that doesn't look too bad at all, right? The way it is. Nobody will ever notice. And it looks nice and clean because of the choker. Cool. So now we've got that done. And I'm going to pre-compose this again. People have different ways, the way they like to work. Some like to do everything in one composition or just a couple compositions. Some like to keep pre-composing. And I mean, I can't really offer any advice as to which is better, but whatever works for you, and just try to be consistent, because the better you know your own workflow, the better it's going to work. So, okay, so we're just going to take this Windows blank, what we've been working on, and just throw that in a new composition. Okay, we're just going to rename this one Final Comp, because this is where most of the magic is going to happen. Okay. I'm just going to bump this down to half resolution, because we're working with a full 2K file here. Cool. So, there's that. And so let's, first order of business, let's just throw in our new sky replacement here. So, I've got some stock footage here, and we're just going to scale this up and find an interesting place. Maybe right in there might be good. And this is a pretty long clip, so actually let's make it look a little more time-lapsey. So for the sky replacement, so just make sure the layer is selected. Go to time and time stretch. And so how long is our composition? It's like 1.5 seconds. So let's just new duration. Let's just put it to 2 seconds and see how ridiculous that looks. Okay, so that should be good. So now we're going to apply shine. So we're going to go layer, new adjustment layer, shine. And in this type of thing, shine is best used as on top of an adjustment layer. So yeah, that looks really crazy. But that's because of the transfer mode. So if you do none, it's going to blow. It's basically going to look like that. Normal, it's going to, apply the light rays over top of it in a normal sight type of transfer mode. But in this case, we're going to use add. So, and our source point is right in the middle here, or you can select it up in the effect control. But I'm just going to bring it up high so that light rays are kind of shining down onto the ground here. Okay. And our ray length, I'm just going to cut that down a little bit so they're barely touching the edge of the frame there. Cool. And also in our pre-process here, we can mess with the threshold of exactly really how much shine we are letting take over our frame here. So just kind of mess with that. Okay. And in our colorize, we just want this to match our background the best it can. Also, I threw a quick curves adjustment on the background here. So just to give it a little more oomph, basically what I did was in the RGB, I just gave it a little contrast curve. Gave it just a little bit of red and took a little bit of blue out, which is going to leave a little bit of yellow. Okay. So, There's our shine. See if we can can't match that to the back, so let's get that there. And get our red. Let's make that a little more orangish yellow. Don't want it to look too ridiculous. There we go. Something like that, maybe. Cool. Okay, so next we're going to do the light wrap, which is the basically the light that's spilling around the edge of the window because of the light that's coming through. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but this is kind of the classic way that I was taught. Okay, first we're going to pre-compose the background. So pre-compose. Yeah, you can move all attributes to new composition. Okay, now we're going to duplicate this and put it above our foreground. Next we're going to go to Set Matte. Lay that on there. And we can actually rename this our light wrap layer. And let's just define this as background. Okay. So set matte, and we're also going to need a fast blur on here. Okay, so for our set matte, we're going to set it to the window as blank. And just so we can see what's going on, I'll do that. And we're going to invert it. So it's just the light, basically, that's in the windows. Next, we're going to fast blur it. Now, what that's going to do, that is going to provide the light that's spilling on the outside. So, and then we're going to duplicate that. We're going to turn off the fast blur. And there it is. So, basically, this is overlay. So basically what's happening here, this is our background, obviously, and then this is our plate that's set in front of it. The light wrap then is set on top of all of that. Unfortunately, when you set the light wrap on top, that fast blur blurs everything, so it looks kind of funky. So if you look at that alone, it's completely blurred out, and that's not really what it should look like because we only want these edge things. So, and then the overlay is basically the normal thing set back on top of it. So there you go. And to control the spill and everything, you just can adjust the blurriness, or if you can also just adjust the opacity of the layer, and that essentially does the same thing. So you can just mess with that until you think that looks good. That's a little intense. It just needs to be really subtle, that's all. That's what we're going for. So just keep messing with these until it looks good. So that's with it, and that's without. Great. Okay. On our shine layer, if we scrub through it, the rays don't really quite do what they're supposed to with this pillar that's in the way. They kind of go in front of it as if the pillar isn't even there. So what I did was I just masked that pillar out. It was, it didn't take any time. So I'll do that, and I'll show you the results in 1 second. Okay, so I've masked out around this pillar, and now it doesn't wrap around it quite the same, but I did soften the edge a pretty decent amount. So you do get a little bit of spill, which is nice. And yeah, set it to subtract just to take out that part. Additionally, I also masked out just this top in the final render. Just to make sure that no weird spill comes out of there. Let's see, wait, was that? Because it doesn't. If the shine plugin can kind of be a little crazy sometimes, depending on what it's reading off of, and if something is of a certain luminance, then it may start shining off of there. So I just did that just basically for safety purposes, I guess, and feathered that out a bit too. Cool. All right. So lastly, just as on a color correction note, if you look at this, of how red and warm this is, the floor still isn't quite giving off that same thing. Like if you look at these pools, they're still a little cool. So I just warmed up the floor a bit. It was really easy. I just did Threw an adjustment layer on there. And once again, masked off the adjustment layer. Put a curves adjustment on. Got in real close here. Just a little bit of red. And then took out a little bit of blue. There we go. So I don't know if you can see that on the web video, but that's with it and that's without. It's really subtle, but it's definitely necessary to try and match these up the best we can. So yeah, that's much better. And then feather this mask off a bit. And yeah, so that's our shot right there. And one last thing that I forgot to do, for these light rays, in the final render, I actually animated the position of the source point, and it just gives them a nice kind of sweeping light, because what we're using in the back is a time lapse, and this dolly shot has, you know, apparent movement. So I thought I'd animate the rays a little bit. So all I did was I just found where the source point. I set a keyframe at the beginning. Then went to the end and just swept it over just a little bit. And that just gives it a little more, yeah, there we go. Gives it a little more life. So let me just render this out real quick so you guys can see the final project. So there it is, the final with the animated rays. Yeah, so I think that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. If any of you guys have any comments or questions or anything, feel free to leave it at the bottom of the page. And hopefully you'll be seeing me again in some more upcoming video tutorials. And make sure to check out my blog. It's markrleonard.blogspot.com. And I still have to do a lot of updating on it. I haven't posted anything for a while. But keep your eyes open. But thanks again for watching. This is Mark R. Leonard signing off of aetuts.com. Bye.